Pete Alonso, what is your panic level? Because the later we get into the market with a 30-year-old right-handed hitting first baseman who has a bad defensive track record, the worry meter for the size of his contract, I think, gets higher and higher. Where are you at on it?
I mean, him, it's even more a matter of tough to find the fit, but the Mets remain the obvious fit, not just because
go to the Mets.
He's beloved there, right? But once you get to the point where you start hearing the Angels being floated, that's how you know. That's how you know we're kind of at last call of like, let's figure this out. I wrote about Pete last week, just before New Year's, just kind of talking about how he is objectively one of the greatest home run hitters we've ever seen, like in terms of early in his career, like that's just a fact. But the first base slugging archetype is just not cool anymore. There aren't that many first base stars in baseball. There aren't, especially that have always been first basemen. And that is Pete through and through. And this position is just not a position, not just about how, especially if you're a bad defender, how little defensive value you're providing, let alone base running you're providing. This is not a position where you have a foundational piece as often as it used to be. I had a stat in my piece
Joey
about,
Votto.
Yeah.
It was Joey Votto got a big deal there. Miguel Cabrera got a big deal there. Albert Pujols got a big deal there.
But since that, we don't see a lot of big deals for first baseman at all. And honestly, you just look around the game. I mean, think about who is clear like a first base, like Freddie Freeman, right? Freddie Freeman and Pete, but generationally, you mentioned those other guys like Pujols, thing of the past. Miggy, thing of the past. Votto, thing of the past. You know, we have Matt Olson is one of the guys we've seen. But other than that, like Bryce Harper and Vlad were not first basemen. And then now they are, right? But it's not like they were born and raised first basemen the way that Pete Alonso has been. And so it's just hard to get teams, especially David Stearns, to be like, yes, this is who I'm going to commit these dollars to. But the dynamic is so weird because at some point you have to imagine Steve Cohen, the Mets fan, is going to be like, I would like Pete Alonso to be on my team.
Right. And this will be a fascinating battle here between the head and the heart, between the brain and the soul. Steve Cohen, who bleeds blue and orange and green for money, but mostly blue and orange, obviously wants to have Pete Alonso at the stadium to watch him do Pete Alonso things and to be endearing and corny and hit really big home runs. David Stearns, who was raised in the cauldron of frugality in Milwaukee.
Hey, also a Mets fan. Also a Mets fan.
Let's a Mets fan.
Let's be real.
Raised in a cauldron of frugality, he is clearly, understandably reticent to drop a Brinks truck on a first baseman of that age. And so no matter how this plays out, we learn something about how the Mets operate. With Juan Soto, Steve Cohen could be like, David Stearns, shut up. Okay. Is this smart? No. Are we doing it? Yes. The money's irrelevant. I'm curious to see if that's how things go with Alonso as well.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say about that is, you know, you mentioned Soto. That's another point I made in what I wrote, is just that unlike with Soto, where multiple teams are desperate to have him, the Mets do not need to bid against themselves here, right? Maybe there are other teams involved. Maybe the Angels are involved for whatever reason. Maybe the Blue Jays are desperate enough to consider Pete and have Pete and Vlad alternating first base and DH for the next however many years. Maybe one, maybe three. Hey, they need power more than almost any team. So like Pete Alonso would improve their lineup. That is hard
he
to
does
say.
do that.
The Giants, I think, would be a good fit there, but that is another situation where they would be essentially punting their draft. They already signed Willy Adames. They'd be punted to Pete Alonso, and that's obviously not a great ballpark fit. I think Pete would hit homers anywhere, whatever. Or you're shaking your head, right? Because again, none of these things make as much sense as just keeping him with the Mets. All of that said, because of the dynamics of there's not other teams bidding Steve Cohen up to $800 million, I think this is going to take some more time, and I think we're going to end up with a shorter term, more creative situation where will it benefit Pete Alonso to go back on the market? I don't know. It's just super difficult for me to see him getting 5 years, let alone even 4 at this point.
I mean, just what do? You give him like 300 You know, you just say,
Yeah,
let's do something
I mean, there's
stupid
some
together.
risk. There's some risk in that too. I don't know. I still feel like
There's
it's going
no
to end up
risk in
back with
that.
the Mets.
There's no risk because the money's not real with them. There's no risk.
Well, I know, but if
let's say
that
he
was
gets
truly
hurt.
the case,
If he gets
if
hurt, they
that was
move
truly the
Vientos, and you're good.
case, yeah. Well, but this is also part of why I think Pete is underrated, is that he doesn't miss games. Like
He's so consistent.
Like it's so automatic. Like I understand the profile is sketchy, but to me, it's just like an automatic 65 extra base hits. Like that seems like something that a lot of lineups could use, but I know it's not for the price that Boris wants. And this is the biggest Boris potential L remaining on the Scobo left.
I agree. That is circumstantial. And I think I'm writing about Scott right now. And like the Soto W is obviously circumstantial because you have the two of the three highest spending franchises going toe to toe over a generational player. Like you and I could have got that to 700 million, you know, whereas the Alonso thing is difficult for any agent. And so it's a very interesting free agency.